Hey everybody, welcome to Aniki, the podcast about anime with two brothers. I'm Ben.
And I'm being spied on by the NSA.
Well, of course you are. Stop using Audacity.
Oh well, la-di-da. But that's what we use.
It is what we use.
I guess they can get all of our anime secrets.
I mean, we publish it live for them later, so...
But not everything makes the final cut.
This is true.
That's how they get you.
That is how they get you. So what have you been up to since last we spoke?
Oh, goodness. The new Magic set dropped. The new D&D Magic set.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pretty good. D&D tropes.
Yeah, I don't understand the whole dungeon thing.
You delve into a dungeon. You go into a dungeon.
I saw that.
Little dungeon card. Yeah, okay. Well, here. Hold on. I'm gonna teach you something.
Oh boy.
You go. We're gonna learn you something today. Okay, so here's how it works.
Mm-hmm.
There are cards that let you venture into the dungeon, and when you venture into a dungeon, you get a little list of dungeons, and you can choose which ones to delve in. And then when you delve into the dungeon, you start at the top of the card and you go down making choices along the way. So anything that says venture into the dungeon basically gets a tacked on ability, and the ability gets better the more times you delve into the dungeon. So like, say you're going to venture into the lost mines of Fandelver.
Uh-huh.
The first time you do that, you're going to just scry one, like the top card of your library, and put it on top or bottom. But the second time you venture, you don't get to choose a new dungeon. You have to completely complete the dungeon that you are trying to complete. You can choose whether to go through the mine tunnels and get a treasure token, or you could go through the goblin lair and get a free 1/1 goblin token. So while the first venture into the dungeon was kind of minor, the second one's pretty good. You're going to get like a 1/1 or a lotus petal.
Uh-huh.
But then the third time, depending on where you were the second, you can choose between several different things. You could get a +1/+1 counter, you could drain for 1, or you could give a creature -4/-0. And then if you completely finish out this dungeon, you'll get to draw a card.
That seems kind of weak.
It's basically a bunch of ETB effects on already pretty playable cards that give you good things. But that's Lost Mines of Fandelver, right? That's the very basic dungeon. If you're not doing anything special, that's usually the one you're going to do, because the abilities are pretty good. Now, if you have lots of venture into the dungeon, you're going to do Dungeon of the Mad Mage, which ends with you drawing 3 cards and playing one of them for free. So,
see, that seems legit.
but that one takes like 7 steps, so you got to really be venturing. And then there's Tomb of Annihilation for those among us who are risky. It's a high risk, high reward dungeon where you're going to actually like take damage and discard cards, but you can finish it in 3 steps, and you end up with a 4/4 Death Toucher for free. So
He sounds ominous. Does he touch death, or does he bring death upon his touch?
it's an Ostropol, so it's an aborted god. So
that just raises more questions, really.
yeah, well, you get those in DD.
Well, you been up to anything else besides Magic?
Bad Batch is still on and still good.
Good. I watched 2 of the first episodes of anime that we hotaked last time.
Mm-hmm.
I tried to watch first episodes of series that are new, not second seasons of things. So I watched an episode of The Case of Vanitas or something.
Sure.
Do you like steampunk hot boys who are vampires and just over the top?
I mean, I could be in for steampunk hot boy vampires.
Because we were told it's vampires in Paris. That's pretty much it. They are hot boys, vampires in Paris, and there are magic Zeppelin-ish things, big airships that have, full cities inside of them. That's for transport purposes.
Yeah, sure, I'm down for that.
Yeah, there's some vampires and they're in Paris.
Good for them.
Yeah, he's got a book. It's a neat book.
It's some sort of magic book. It's a MacGuffin book.
It is a MacGuffin book. In fact, it's the title of the show.
MacGuffin book?
MacGuffin, the book.
I'll look that up. MacGuffin book. That's the name of the show. Okay.
Yeah. I don't really get a sense of what the rest of the show is going to be, because it was your typical setup first episode.
Yeah.
Here are your players. Here's kind of what they do. The plot will be revealed next time. I guess he's going to save the vampires because the vampires are on the decline or something.
Sure.
More will be revealed. It's fine.
Now, if he's a hot boy and he needs more vampires, I can think of some ways to get some more vampires.
Yep. Although there is a reveal at the very end of the first episode that's like, it's one of those things where at the end of the episode, it's like, oh, this is how my story began. and this is how my story will end. So you're like, oh, how do we get to that point? That seems ridiculous.
It probably ends with him getting reincarnated by a slime after getting hit by a truck-coon.
Ooh. Yes, it's all tied together. Anime is one universe.
That is true.
And then I watched the first episode of Sonny Boy.
Oh yeah, how is that? I'm very intrigued by this.
It is not going to be everyone's cup of tea. First off,
Probably not. I hear it's pretty high science.
it is 100% my jam.
Yep.
Because you're dropped in medias res. Stuff has gone down already, and these kids are just trying to figure out what's going on. And they're not even really trying that hard. Apparently, their high school has been dropped into the void, and some of them have gotten powers. So you think, oh, well, this is going to be kind of like Lord of the Flies.
Sure.
Not in space this time. It's just in the void. It doesn't really go that direction. I'm not really sure what direction it's going in because it's not told in a normal narrative way.
Oh, there you go.
And the art style is a little much for probably most people. But I like it. I like this type of nonsense.
Definitely sounds interesting.
Yes, I will continue watching it. You do have the one girl who is like just the free spirit. And I think she's the main character, but it's hard to tell who the main character is, if there even is one.
Yeah, I'm not sure there is one, considering the cast is something like 48 people or something.
Yeah, I don't think there's a main character, unless it turns out that one of the kids is the cause of the whole thing.
Yeah, it's very likely that it's some sort of slight anthology type series with such a big cast. But yeah,
possibly. It doesn't focus on any one character too much, so like I said, it's hard, but it crams a lot into 22 minutes.
I bet
everything's black.
Yeah.
Speaking of things that are all made of black, you want to talk about shadows and the house they live in?
Sure. And Phantom Black.
Yes, Vanta Black.
Yeah, basically. They all look like it's weird.
So this week, we decided to watch Shadow's House, which is an amazing manga. I've already read all of that.
Well, not all of it.
Well, all that is out
exists.
And I was delighted to find out that they were going to animate it. Although I was curious how well it would do, because it's...
Didn't you watch it as an anime first? And
No.
And then
you put me onto it a while back.
Yeah.
And then I just went and read all the manga. And then found out, oh, there's Shadow's House coming out. It's good. It's a good show.
It was okay. I really liked the manga. The anime was okay. It had some issues, I think.
It's really unique, though.
Yeah, for sure. There's not much else kind of like it.
It's not like some kind of derivative thing. Although it has some derivative elements, but what are you going to do? Yeah. Remix, repeat. But it follows the story of a girl who wakes up in a big old spooky mansion. And she's a maid now, doesn't remember much.
She's like living doll.
She's told she's a living doll, and she is the servant to a shadow person. And the character is drawn all in black. Just a silhouette.
The shadow people are basically like humans that look eerily similar to their maids.
Mm-hmm.
But they're like covered in Vanta black. They're just like completely pitch dark to the point where like you can't tell any depth on them. Even like within obviously not in a 2D medium, but even in the conceit of the show, you cannot distinguish any features from them because they're just too black, too dark. But they do emit soot when upset.
Well, some of them do.
So maybe they're made of soot? Question marks, indeed. This doll finds out that her mistress is named Kate, and Kate gives her the name Emilico. And they try to unravel some mysteries. There's some mysteries afoot. Shadow House is weird because even the children of the Shadow House don't quite know everything that's going on in Shadow House.
I don't think most people know what's going on in Shadow House.
Yeah, we learn why that is the case, but
yeah, it's good. I don't think we can really talk much more about the plot without just spoiling all the twists and turns.
I mean it's a bit of a mystery show, so it's hard to discuss. In broad strokes, I think that it was pretty good. I think the anime had some pacing issues. It definitely did that thing where the last couple of episodes they got done with like exciting plot points a little early, and then they didn't quite know what to do for the last couple episodes, so they just kind of came up with their own climax, and it's okay, but...
Yeah, the last couple episodes were not strictly correct.
Canon?
If you're going off the manga. I was like, what?
Not canon
I don't remember any of this. I remember bits and parts, but what? Okay.
Yeah, and I think that goes down to some pacing issues, which we can get into when we get into the show proper.
It also skipped over some pretty major things that needed to be set up before we get to season 2.
Weird. I was like, where's that character? They should have been there. That's kind of an important thing.
It sure is, but apparently they decided, nah, we'll do that in season 2.
Well, I mean, at the time, it seems a bit like it's unimportant at the time that character is met.
If you have not read the manga, you will not notice that.
Yeah. And again, if you go into season 2 and you're like, when this happened, it wouldn't be too jarring because, again, it doesn't matter until it matters in some ways.
Correct.
So.
But I thought it was a pretty good adaptation overall. I gave it a 7.
Yeah, I liked the themes. It was kind of interesting to have a non-sung opening theme.
Also, the ending is lit.
Oh yeah, the ending theme is really, really, really good.
It's one of the few ending themes that I tried to listen to each time we watched it.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I listened to the ending. I skipped the opening after the first couple times because it's good. It's very atmospheric. It really draws you into the show. But the ending theme is legit.
It's very legit. Good. Well, I guess we'll go into spoiler land.
Sure.
Everybody should go watch it, I think. I can recommend it without really hesitation.
Because it's like a gothic fae thing.
It is. Although even saving that is spoilery.
It's a horror slice of life show.
Well, we haven't hit the horror part yet. That comes later.
Well, there is still horror elements.
There are
where this show is for sure. But
so let's start with. I mean, it's a character-driven show. We gotta just go through all the characters. I think
the 2 main characters are very important. The others are a little more ancillary.
Yeah, we can start with our audience surrogate, Emilico.
Yeah.
She's Kate's living doll.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
She got her name from a storybook that Kate likes. She has a name that is not like Kate's, which is weird.
It's just very important because almost all the other living dolls that live in Shadow House, because it's a whole thing. Like there's a whole bunch of young shadows in Shadow House, and there's a whole bunch of living dolls that serve those shadows. And all of the living dolls have names that mimic their masters.
Yeah. You got Lou and Louise. You got Sean and John, Ricky and Patrick, Ram and Shirley. That'll come.
Rosemary and Mary Rose.
Yeah. Barbie and Barbara, etc., etc., etc. But here we got Kate and Emilico.
Yep.
It's weird.
It's weird.
It's not right.
Weird.
Not quite right. So Emilico is like the cutest little thing, according to my wife. She loves every scene she's in.
She's pretty cute. She's a good moe blob.
She's a good moe blob.
She's more Mo in the manga than even in the anime.
I'd like the fact, though, that she remains optimistic even in the face of real bad stuff. Normally it's like, okay, they're just naive. And Emilico may be somewhat naive, but I think she sees how terrible things are and chooses to be optimistic regardless, especially towards Kate.
Yeah. She is your typical Ginky character. She is going to gambate the out of the situation.
Interesting way of phrasing it.
Am I wrong?
You are not wrong. She also manages to get herself into trouble a lot.
Yeah, she does do that because she worries about unimportant things.
It's very important to not worry about unimportant things.
Don't worry about unimportant things. Important things include the shadows.
Why is Shadow House?
Loyalty to Shadow House. Everything else is completely unimportant. So don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it. It's fine. Drink your coffee.
So your friend got taken over by a soot monster and has lost their mind. Don't worry. Don't worry about it.
Everything's fine.
We see this. Don't worry. Just clean. Be happy.
I think probably the most important part for the first season of the show is she does keep a diary where she puts all of her unimportant thoughts so she can get them out of her head.
Yeah,
this becomes important
you're not supposed
later
to worry about. Yeah,
because Kate finds it and learns some things that maybe she shouldn't have learned. But Kate
is very prim, very proper, and dissatisfied.
Do we know why she's dissatisfied?
We do not, and we do not know why people suspect her of being dissatisfied.
They suspect her of being a dissonant, and apparently that's bad. Because I guess all glory to great-grandfather.
That's true.
Which I don't think she's, like, ever said, well, great-grandfather can go suck an egg.
No.
She's just like, why is House? What is going on?
House?
Why is Edward such a jerk?
This doesn't seem right.
No one knows. But she wants to dig into things that she should best keep her nose out of.
And that's sort of where we learn all sorts of fun, interesting things about Shadow House.
Mm-hmm. I mean, we eventually learn that all the living dolls are human, which is cool because at the beginning of the show, when Emilico wakes up, she's like, "Oh, I'm a living doll." You actually wonder, is she actually a living doll? Is that how this world works? I don't know.
Well, especially in the manga too, right? So one of the problems I have with the anime is it spends really just 3-4 episodes before it gets to the debutante arc.
Yeah.
Where in the manga, it's a long time. They spend a lot of time on sort of slice of lifey type stuff.
Yeah.
To really sort of build the world and to make you go, well, that doesn't seem quite right.
Are they human?
Like, I mean, already Emilico serving like this weird shadow person is weird. But then other things start happening in just the everyday life of Emilico taking care of Kate. And you're like, that doesn't seem
correct,
right or good. Like it spends enough time giving you a looming dread before it starts building onto it. And I feel like this show suffers because of that. And if they had spent just like 2 more episodes on sort of some unsettling slice of life, it would have gotten rid of the problem of the last 2.5 episodes.
I could see
that way you could end it at the actual climax of the debutante arc instead of kind of having to shoehorn in a bunch of extra stuff because we got done early.
True. I mean, when you're in the manga, especially like you said, we're only shown Emilico's perspective. Same with the anime. But because the manga spends so much time just sort of world building, the shadows are super weird. It's not out of the realm of possibility since you never see any other people that maybe they have created living dolls. I don't know. Could be.
Yep.
I don't think we talked about what the purpose of the dolls is, at least from season 1.
Yeah.
The purpose of the dolls is the shadows have no face.
Yep.
Right? The doll is there to serve as the shadow's face.
It's their maid and then their face.
Yeah. So when they're not in the room together, they're out in public. The shadow's emotions are played on the living doll's face. And Emilico is very bad at this.
Oh, very terrible.
Everyone else is great at it.
Utterly garbage.
They're
okay.
They mimic the actions. They mimic what their face would look like. Like it's a pretty good mirror. And then Emilico's like, I'll just do whatever. And Kate lets her. That Kate wants her to. Be your own person, she says. Let's go through the other ones in pairs. How about Lou and Louise?
Lou and Louise. Lou is very quiet. She is the face or the living doll of Louise. Louise is very haughty and loves looking at Lou's face. She thinks she's got the prettiest face in all of Shadow's house and loves it very much.
She dotes on Lou a lot. Also, she's full of herself. Those two are probably the most unlike pair. Because Lou, when she's by herself, when they're cleaning and stuff, she's super nice. She helps Emilico whenever she can. But anytime Louise is around and she's acting as her face, she's mean. Because she has to be.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Because Louise only looks out for Louise.
That is true.
She don't care. And in fact, in the arc after the debut, whatever we want to call that arc, she didn't want to get in on the plot at all, help the other ones find Emilico, until it became beneficial for her. Like, well, if I contact the Star Bearers, maybe I can become a Star Bearer as well.
Yep.
Sean and John.
They're basically a Manzai group.
You're not wrong.
Am I wrong?
Which one's the bokeh, though?
I don't remember what the Japanese names for those two things are.
The bokeh is the
Sean. Sean is the straight man. John is for sure the.
He's a nut.
He's the crazy guy.
However, he does like Kate. Just a little too much.
That is true.
Also, Sean wears glasses, or needs glasses. And
Yes.
John wants him to wear glasses, but he himself does not, which gets them in trouble. So Sean takes his glasses off most of the time and keeps running into things and just being the worst at stuff because he can't see. John actually starts wearing glasses so Sean can see.
Which is nice.
See, not all the shadows are terrible.
No.
Let's see. Ricky and Patrick.
They're jerks.
Patrick's not that much of a jerk. Ricky is.
Ricky's a giant jerk. Sean is kind of also a smug jerk, but he doesn't lord. See, the difference is like Patrick doesn't lord over anyone else, even though he is a smug bastard. Where Ricky, since he has people he can kind of bully, does.
He does get better.
Patrick can't really bully anyone because in Shadow's house, he's not, throughout the course of the show, he's not even debuted yet. So he has not come of age. So he can't really lord over anyone. But Ricky can because he sees the other living dolls. So he can be a jerk.
Pushes people around, puts people down all the time. Just a nasty character. But after the debut, he decides that maybe if he was less of a jerk, Lou would notice him because he's got a thing for Lou hard.
I didn't notice it in the show, but maybe later on in the manga.
It's in the show because during the debut, Lou helps him out cutting through the hedges and such.
Oh, that's true.
And then when she's done, she gives him her shears and he gets all flustered.
Yeah.
It's there. It hasn't been expounded upon yet. Ram and Shirley.
Oh, well, Shirley doesn't have a personality. She suffers from a tragic lack of personality.
It's true. It's all Ram's fault.
And Ram is extremely timid.
She's a sad sack.
Yeah, she kind of is. I like her, but yeah.
I like the idea of her, but man, she is just... It's hard to watch scenes with her in it. Because it's just it's awkward. Everything's awkward cringe. It turns out that's the reason everything goes to hell for the two of them.
Yeah.
Because Ram couldn't work up the nerve to give Shirley a goodnight kiss.
Yep.
Which is very important.
Even strike up a conversation, but those things turns out are very important. Mm-hmm. And I think now would be a good time to discuss why that is very important.
And why is that very important?
Well, now we get into hyper spoiler land.
Oh, yes.
Where, if we haven't spoiled before, one of the big mysteries of Shadow's house is why though? Question marks?
Why is Shadows?
Well, we soon learned that shadows are actually a type of shadow fairy mimic. So they actually are a formless mimic who only mimic things that they see. And what the Grand Master of Shadow House, Lord Great Grandfather, has done has devised a way to give these fairies personalities by having them mimic the same person over a long period, which is what the shadows and their living dolls are. The living dolls are actually a template for the shadows to gain individuality and personalities. And what eventually happens is when the shadows fully grow up, they take over completely their living doll.
It ain't pretty when that happens.
Yeah, no, they subsume them.
They essentially kill them. It's not. Well, I mean, the manga isn't done, so we don't know if it could be undone. But as far as we know, the person gets killed.
Yeah.
When the humans come to Shadow's house, they think it's a great honor to come and serve the great masters up on the mountain, but they don't actually know what's going on up there.
Yeah, they just think they're being well-paid maids and servants.
So the children drink they call it coffee, but it's some kind of soot. I assume it's great grandfather's soot.
It's gotta be, right?
Which blanks out their mind, makes them loyal to Shadow's house. And then their bodies are placed on dioceses where these little fairies come and pick out which one they like. That's how they become the shadow person. So that means that at some point, Emilico was just laying there and this weird little fairy thing came up and was like, I like this one, and turned into Kate.
Though to say they even had a preference at that point is questionable, because you get the feeling that shadows, before they even meet their living doll, really don't have any individual thoughts or personality at all.
No, they seem to be more animal-like. just like cats. They're curious, but that's about it.
Yeah.
Now that may not be true. Because
that's why their friends call them Whiskers.
That's true. That may not be the case because Ram Shirley eventually reverts back to one of these little creatures, and she does display intelligence.
Yeah, but that could be because that she connected just enough with Ram to have some semblance of something.
That could be. So after some amount of time where the living doll has been near their shadow master, the shadow has to debut. And apparently normally the way this is done is they just show up to a party and then that's it.
Yeah, they kind of show up to a party, make sure that everybody is has taken to their living doll well. If they've not, like Shirley, they are sort of discarded. The living doll is probably fed enough soot to completely mind wipe them and turn them into the veiled dolls, which are like the servants of everybody.
Mm-hmm. They're basically just house staff.
Yep.
But this time, during this debut that we're shown, this adult named Edward has devised a whole new way of doing the debut and figuring out which shadows are worthy to complete their debut. And he has it out for Kate.
And then we have a tournament. They have an arc where they battle. they have an arc where they battle.
Well, battle's a strong word. So Edward has like this giant labyrinth with all kinds of puzzles and weird stuff. And he takes all the Shadow Masters and puts them in various places around this labyrinth. And the living dolls have to first get out of the greeting room and then go find their master and take them to the middle of the maze by the time the big hourglass filled with soot finishes running out.
Yeah, they have about 2 hours.
Hijinks ensue. They were good traps. I'll give him that.
They were. It's a clever little arc. But this is where the vast chunk of the story of the show takes place.
Mm-hmm.
Though again, they end up getting done just slightly too early, and they get themselves in a bit of a pickle.
I would have liked to have seen more of the third floor folk.
I agree, because they're weird.
They're real weird.
Because one of the reasons Edward has made such an elaborate debut is he's trying to impress the people on the third floor of the adult wing of the manor house. Those are basically the people who are the closest to Lord Great-Grandfather. And they weird.
I don't understand any of them. All I know is they're super hoity-toity.
One's a butterfly lady. One hates everyone.
One's a creepy guy that reminds me of Tim Burton.
Yeah, that's fair.
And then there's a cigar guy.
Yeah.
Fat cigar guy. And Lord...
Butterfly lady who's got a hard-on for soot.
He does have a hard-on for soot. And he got Crow lady.
Yep.
Lord Great-Grandfather himself, who has no face. Which is interesting. Or does he have a face? No one.
Yeah, both literally and figuratively.
I haven't seen it. He may just still be a fairy.
He probably is. He's probably still just a fairy.
Big fat fairy. Can I just stop here and impress upon you how amazing it is that this entire thing takes place in a single location in this house. And there's an incredible amount of world building just for this one house.
Yeah.
You got 2 wings, you got a whole social hierarchy, you got all kinds of mysteries going on, you got weird soot magic. But really, it's pretty simple. There's some shadows, there's some people, but why? And that's it.
But why? That is the big question.
Well, the third arc, though, that should not have happened. And I kept going, that's not how, they're not supposed to find that yet.
It's barely even an arc. Right, because it's just 3 episodes. Emilico gets kidnapped by
Edward
and taken to the adult house. But here's the problem too, right? That already doesn't happen. But then there's a big thing in the manga of Emilico Kate trying to tell the other shadows, hey, look, your living dolls are being affected in a weird way by the older shadows.
Mm-hmm.
And they're actually human, and I need to let you guys know this in a way that none of us get caught. And she devises all sorts of cute, clever ways of trying to get people to know that their living dolls are being affected by the coffee that they now get to drink now that they've debuted, and this, that, and the other. And it's really interesting and sneaky. And in the show, she just gathers everybody in a room. It's just hey,
they're human.
they're all human. You're like, now hold on. Hold up.
You took so much away from her.
Well, and especially since like part of the tension and the horror and the fun of the show of the manga is how is she able to discuss these taboo subjects and investigate these taboo subjects in ways that don't get her caught. Like therein lies the tension.
Not just her caught, but once she gives this information over, how will her friends not get caught either?
Yeah. And then it's just like she just kind of brazenly starts doing this stuff.
Yeah.
And then it gets weird. Like you can't just brazenly out in the open defy Shadow House like this.
So everything went sideways, I feel, as soon as we got the coffee. Right? Because once they debut, everybody drinks the coffee, everybody praises Lord Great Grandfather, and the living faces now need to be more and more brainwashed, so they will be accepting, quote unquote, of the ultimate fusion that will occur.
Yeah.
Which takes place at some point in the future. It's not immediate. So
yeah, like
the manga makes a big deal about the coffee. In the anime, we got that initial, oh, there's something wrong with our living dolls. We want them back the way they were. And that's fine. That's how the arc starts. But then it's, well, we need to like destroy the coffee or switch it out with something else because everyone's being affected. And it has a whole thing to do with the star bearers and the power dynamics on the children's wing. It's a whole thing. But here, Emilico gets kidnapped. And now people are just in the adult house, which is like super forbidden. It's super off limits. Like, there are lots of mysteries about, whoa, what's actually over there that you don't find out in the manga. But now we're just, people just go over there.
Well, it's over there. It's just like a room, man. Like, don't worry about it.
So that part was a letdown. And they started the Rosemary arc and then just forgot about it. Like, that's an integral part of everything that's going on. I don't want to spoil too much about that.
And just no Robe-sama, which is like,
she was there once.
I think they're important. I think they are important.
Robe-sama was there once.
Yeah.
So they set that up and then didn't go anywhere with it, which makes sense because the Rosemary arc doesn't really complete until several episodes worth after the end of the debut. Like that's, I can see why they made that choice because you'd have to commit to 24 episodes to get all of it out.
Yeah.
So maybe they were just hedging their bets. I don't know. I can't imagine they won't do a second season.
Yeah, I agree.
We haven't even talked about Starbearers yet, but they didn't really factor too much into the first season.
I mean, I hope they get a second season. I also just hope that the manga releases in the States, because right now the only place to get it is just online, which is a big bummer. As far as I know, you can't get it here in the States, which is really bummer.
You are correct.
It's very good and beautiful. It's full color.
All of it is full color. I don't know how the guy finds the time to do it because he's only been publishing this for the last 3 years and he's already got 8 volumes of full color out.
Yeah.
In the same amount of time, Nagatoro has only had like 6, 7 volumes. So this guy is running at the same pace as
Well, some of it I think is in some ways like panel structure stuff. Because generally speaking, a page of Shadow House has fewer panels than a lot of other manga.
It may be, but coloring is not.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I mean, we all saw Nozaki-kun, so...
With how well he colors.
He's so great. I thought it was going to be like the first chapter, too. He's going to be full color.
Oh, yeah.
No, it's the whole thing.
No, it's like the whole freaking thing. The other cool thing that I did like about the show is they put a filter on a lot of stuff to kind of make it look like it's being put on a canvas, and I do like that effect.
It is nice.
It helps kind of bring how richly colored and atmospheric the art is in the manga.
I have to wonder, when he's doing the manga, do you think he's doing color on white paper or color on black paper? I get the impression it's black. I bring this up because the aesthetic of like Batman the Animated Series, all of that show was done with black matte. Everybody painted on black. And I think the same thing's done here because in the manga, at least, everything is dingy all the time. On purpose.
Yeah, for sure. So that would not surprise me. It'd also make doing the shadows kind of easier because there's just no way you can get a rich enough black.
That's what I figure.
For them, even in the manga. In the manga, they are black. They are, what is it in computer? 00000? Is that black?
You are correct.
Yeah. It is. They are that.
It is the most black. However, they weren't using Vanta Black because Anish Kapoor would have something to say about it.
Oh, that's true.
But yeah, I like Shadow's House. I feel like once it's all done, I'm going to have way more to say about it. Yeah,
I hope it ends, right? It at least seems like the type of story that does end, which is good. Because it is a big mystery show, and some of these mystery things piddle out. Like, let's talk about good Jujutsu Kaisen and how its manga has now it says it's on hiatus. That's usually a euphemism for over forever. And unfortunately, so is Land of the Lustrous. It's been on hiatus for a minute now, too. And it's like, ugh. But I think that's a health issue.
That one is.
I think she probably messed up her wrist.
She had a problem.
Like all of them do.
But I can't even guess how Shadow's House could end.
Oh, I know, right?
It's like normally you watch a show like this, it's a mystery, like, oh, well, it's, so and so's the murderer, or okay, the big twist is going to be this thing. Here, it's, do they overthrow grandfather? If that happens, can the shadows continue to survive without the living dolls? How does this work? How does they relate with the village down yonder?
Yeah, and with a lot of these things, it's like, yeah, it's going to be really hard to sort of stick the landing in some regard. But, well, I was about to make a joke about how Tower of God stopped forever, but it has actually started releasing again. Well, la-di-da.
I feel like, though...
Maybe I'll start reading that again. But I almost feel like the best way for Shadow's House to end is one of those, like, Emilico and Kate escape, but the house trundles on. I think that's the only good way to sort of end it in a way.
That would be a very Victorian way of ending it.
Exactly. And I think that would be satisfactory. Yeah. But, I mean, I'm also willing to just wait and see.
The depth of world building and how everything is linked together, and we can't get all of it because we'd have to spoil all the manga so far. But it feels like the guy knows exactly how this thing is going to go and end, and he knew that before he started.
Yeah, I do agree.
So it's mapped out. It's not like it doesn't feel like he's winging it.
I think so too. I think a lot of the like weird things that happen during it feel a lot more like the weird things that happened in Steven Universe, where it's like you can see it's like maybe they changed some things along the way, but like the big like reveal mystery of the show was plotted out far enough in advance that you couldn't screw it up too bad.
Yeah.
The fact that like day one it was pitched as, okay, so here's the deal with rose quartz. You're like, and then everything like flowed from that, and because of that it made it so the mystery never got too off the rails.
Makes sense. Yeah, I feel the same about Shadow's House. I want to see Kate Sama succeed. Also, I would like people to be consistent with the subtitles because the shadows speak in third person. Please get that right.
Yes, do that. Because that's one of the like weird things. It's hard to tell that in the manga for the first half because like it's like, are you just like not translating this well? Because Japanese sometimes is in third person. It's like, oh, no, like literally every shadow refers to themselves in third person. It's like, oh, okay, well, then it becomes important and not just like...
Which is weird because you're watching it with the subtitles and the subtitles like Kate's talking. And she said, well, I think. I'm like, but she's saying Kate-sama thinks.
Yes.
That's what she said.
And again, I get it because in Japanese, talking in third person is a little more common than it is here in English.
Not all the time.
They do it to such an extent and so consistently amongst all of the shadows, like to the point where it's like Edward, when he's in shadow form and not in face form, refers to himself in third person, but he doesn't when his face is showing. That's like, this is an important thing. This tells you something about the world.
It does. I don't even know what it means.
No, I don't know either. Other than just the general like shadows have so little personality intrinsically.
Well, hopefully there's a second season that comes out next spring.
That would be nice.
I want to see more of it. And I probably need to catch up on the last couple of chapters of the manga, too.
Yeah, I'm rereading it. Because I stopped when... I was current when I had stopped. But that was a while ago.
A while back. Well, What are we going to watch for next time, son?
Well, I know I'm going to read some Tower of God. I'm sure it's still okay.
They still on a train?
No, they're thankfully off the train. That happened.
Did the train stop in Soul Society?
I may have. I mean, I don't have high hopes for Tower of God. Do not get me wrong. But it's one of those things where it's like, man, I put in the time to get through chapter 485.
Oof.
I mean, I know it's a sunk cost fallacy, but at a certain point, it's just like, all right.
Yeah.
I kind of want to see how this ends, if it ever does.
Maybe it will. I don't even remember what floor they're on now.
Oh, well, now in the comic, they go between floors kind of willy-nilly. It's a little more complicated than that now. I
feel like you can do that once you hit a certain, like, you get to, like, floor 50. You can go between all the ones below that, right?
Yeah, they're at such a high power level that there's, like, open rebellions going on, and this, that, and the other thing, so it's gotten complicated.
Sounds fun.
A little too complicated, to be honest. But at this point, I'm invested just enough to be like, oh, huh. It finally came off a hiatus after a year.
Well, let's watch something that's not complicated. Let's watch Nagatoro-san.
Yeah, I'll watch people get bullied.
There will be a bit of bullying, but also it'll be freaking adorable.
It'll be adorable bullying. Which is the best kind of bullying. Which is technically just Shadow House when you think about it. It's just adorable bullying.
I don't like that take. Because that would mean Kate is bullying Emilico.
I mean, Kate's not. Like, people are bullying the cutes.
That is true.
Kate and Emilico are being bullied.
Well, I mean, Emilico is bullied. Kate, I think, is just, hatching a conspiracy, and she doesn't want to get caught. Does that count as bullying if you're evading the law? The man's got me down?
I think crime can count as being bullied.
Okay.
I think crime is bullying.
ACAB or something?
Yeah.
All cops are bullies.
All crime is bullies.
It's true. It is. All right. Well, next time we're all going to get bullied, and it'll be fun.
Till next time, stay bullied.